Stories and Documentary Network. The Seljuk Empire emerges as a pivotal force in the annals of history, spanning the medieval Islamic world and leaving an indelible mark on the socio-political fabric of the Middle East and Anatolia. Rooted in the rich tapestry of Turkic nomadic traditions and Islamic civilization, the Seljuk Empire rose to prominence against the backdrop of a fragmented Islamic world and encroaching Byzantine influence. The 11th century witnessed the Seljuks' ascendancy, as they established a formidable state that reshaped the contours of power in the region. The Seljuk ascendancy occurred amidst a complex geopolitical landscape characterized by the decline of the Abbasid Caliphate, internal strife within the Byzantine Empire, and the emergence of new power dynamics in Central Asia. Against this backdrop, the Seljuks emerged as a dynamic force, harnessing the military prowess of the Turkic tribes and the administrative acumen of Persianate culture to forge an empire that stretched from the borders of the Abbasid Caliphate to the Byzantine heartlands. The origins of the Seljuk Turks trace back to the vast steppes of Central Asia, where Turkic tribes roamed and flourished amidst the shifting landscapes of the medieval world. The Seljuks, among these nomadic tribes, gradually rose to prominence during the 10th century CE. Emerging from the broader Turkic milieu, they embarked on a transformative journey that would eventually lead them to the heartlands of the Islamic world. The Seljuk lineage can be traced to Seljuk Beg, a charismatic chieftain whose leadership and vision galvanized his people. Through a combination of military prowess and diplomatic skill, Seljuk Beg consolidated the disparate Turkic tribes under his banner, forging a cohesive confederation that would later bear his name. This confederation, known as the Seljuk tribe, became a formidable force on the Central Asian steppes, renowned for its cavalry prowess and martial traditions. The migration of the Seljuks from their ancestral homelands was driven by a multitude of factors, including environmental pressures, internal rivalries, and the lure of fertile lands beyond the horizon. Pushed by the encroachment of other nomadic groups and drawn by the promise of new opportunities, the Seljuks embarked on a westward migration that would alter the course of history. Their journey took them across the vast expanse of the Eurasian steppe, traversing deserts, mountains, and plains in search of greener pastures. By the mid-11th century, the Seljuks had reached the threshold of the Islamic world, where they encountered the fractured remnants of the Abbasid Caliphate and the waning authority of local dynasties. Sensing an opportunity to carve out their own destiny, the Seljuks seized upon the political vacuum and embarked on a series of military campaigns that would catapult them to the forefront of regional power struggles. The Seljuk conquests were marked by a combination of military prowess, strategic acumen, and opportunistic alliances. Led by charismatic leaders such as Tural Beg and Alp Arslan, the Seljuk forces launched a series of lightning campaigns that swept across the heartlands of the Islamic world, from Persia to Mesopotamia and beyond. The pivotal moment in Seljuk expansion came with the Battle of Dandanakan in 1040, where Alp Arslan decisively defeated the Ghaznavid Sultanate, solidifying Seljuk control over Persia and laying the foundations for future conquests. Buoyed by their military successes, the Seljuks continued their westward advance, bringing vast swaths of territory under their sway and asserting their dominance over rival powers. One of the most significant achievements of the Seljuk conquests was the capture of Baghdad in 1055, where Tural Beg entered as a liberator and was recognized as the de facto ruler of the Abbasid Caliphate. This symbolic gesture not only legitimized Seljuk authority but also underscored their role as protectors of Sunni Islam and guardians of the Abbasid legacy. Seljuk expansion was not limited to military conquests alone but also encompassed strategic alliances and diplomatic maneuvering. Through shrewd diplomacy and marriage alliances, the Seljuks forged alliances with local potentates and tribal confederations, consolidating their grip on the diverse patchwork of cultures and ethnicities that comprised the Islamic world. The culmination of Seljuk power and prestige came with the establishment of the Seljuk Sultanate, a centralized state that embodied the aspirations and ambitions of the Turkic tribes. Under the leadership of Malik Shah, the Seljuk Sultanate reached its zenith, encompassing a vast domain that stretched from Anatolia to Central Asia. Malik Shah's reign was characterized by a flourishing of arts, culture, and learning, as the Seljuk court became a vibrant center of intellectual activity and artistic patronage. Poets, scholars, and philosophers flocked to the Seljuk capital of Isfahan, where they found patronage and protection under Malik Shah's benevolent rule. The establishment of the Seljuk Sultanate marked a new chapter in Islamic history, as the Seljuks emerged as standard-bearers of Sunni orthodoxy and champions of Islamic civilization. Their capital cities, adorned with magnificent mosques, palaces, and bazaars, became symbols of Seljuk splendor and sophistication. The governance structure of the Seljuk Sultanate was characterized by a centralized authority headed by the Sultan, who wielded supreme power over the vast territories under Seljuk rule. The Sultanate was organized along hierarchical lines, with administrative officials and provincial governors responsible for overseeing the day-to-day affairs of the empire. At the apex of the hierarchy stood the Sultan, who held absolute authority over military, political, and religious matters. The Sultan's authority was bolstered by the institution of kingship, Shahanshah, which conferred legitimacy and divine sanction upon his rule. As the supreme commander of the Seljuk armies, the Sultan played a pivotal role in military campaigns, strategic planning, and defense of the realm. Beneath the Sultan were appointed viziers, who served as the chief ministers and advisors to the throne. Viziers were entrusted with the task of administering the empire, overseeing taxation, justice, and diplomacy, and ensuring the smooth functioning of state affairs. They played a crucial role in mediating disputes, resolving conflicts, and maintaining order within the empire. Provincial governance was entrusted to governors, atabegs, appointed by the Sultan to administer specific regions and provinces. Atabegs were responsible for collecting taxes, enforcing law and order, and implementing imperial decrees within their respective jurisdictions. They enjoyed a considerable degree of autonomy but were expected to pledge allegiance to the Sultan and uphold the principles of Seljuk governance. The administrative policies of the Seljuk Sultanate were guided by principles of efficiency, centralization, and meritocracy. The Seljuks inherited a rich administrative tradition from their Persian and Islamic predecessors, which they adapted and refined to suit the needs of their burgeoning empire. One of the key administrative innovations of the Seljuks was the establishment of a centralized bureaucracy which enabled efficient communication, coordination, and governance across vast territorial holdings. The bureaucracy was staffed by a cadre of educated bureaucrats and officials who were selected based on merit and competence rather than hereditary privilege. Taxation was a crucial component of Seljuk administration, serving as the primary source of revenue for the state. The Seljuks implemented a system of land taxation, ikta, whereby land grants were allocated to military commanders, provincial governors, and state officials in exchange for military service or administrative duties. This system helped to ensure a steady flow of revenue to the state while incentivizing loyalty and service among the ruling elite. In addition to taxation, the Seljuks also relied on a network of royal monopolies and trade regulations to generate income and regulate commercial activities within the empire. The state exercised control over key industries such as salt production, textile manufacturing, and coin minting, which helped to finance the imperial treasury and fund public works projects. The legal system of the Seljuk Sultanate was based on Islamic law, Sharia, which served as the foundation of the judicial system and the source of legal authority within the empire. Islamic law governed all aspects of Seljuk society, including civil, criminal, and family matters, and provided a framework for resolving disputes and administering justice. Judicial authority was vested in qadis, judges, appointed by the Sultan to preside over courts of law and dispense justice in accordance with Islamic legal principles. Qadis were trained jurists versed in Islamic jurisprudence and were responsible for interpreting and applying the law in accordance with the Quran, the Sunnah, traditions of the Prophet Muhammad, and legal precedent. The Seljuks also established a system of appellate courts and legal councils to adjudicate complex legal disputes and ensure the equitable administration of justice. These institutions played a crucial role in upholding the rule of law, protecting the rights of citizens, and maintaining social order within the empire. In addition to formal legal institutions, the Seljuks also promoted alternative dispute resolution mechanisms such as mediation, arbitration, and reconciliation, which helped to resolve conflicts and disputes at the local level. These informal mechanisms were often overseen by local elders, tribal leaders, and religious scholars who acted as mediators and facilitators of peace within their communities. The Seljuk army was the backbone of the empire, renowned for its formidable prowess and strategic flexibility. Comprised primarily of Turkic cavalrymen known as Ghazis, the Seljuk army was highly mobile, disciplined, and adept at swift maneuvers on the battlefield. The cavalry formed the core of Seljuk military power, utilizing speed, agility, and precision to outmaneuver and overwhelm enemy forces. Alongside cavalry, the Seljuks also fielded infantry units, archers, and siege engines, creating a versatile and well-rounded military force capable of confronting a variety of threats. The military campaigns and strategies of the Seljuks were marked by a combination of boldness, strategic foresight, and tactical innovation. Under the leadership of renowned commanders such as Alp Arslan, Malik Shah, and Turul Beg, the Seljuks launched a series of successful military campaigns that expanded their dominion across the Middle East and Anatolia. Employing a combination of siege warfare, cavalry charges, and psychological warfare, the Seljuks devised innovative strategies to overcome their adversaries and secure victory on the battlefield. Seljuk military strategy was characterized by its adaptability and flexibility, allowing commanders to adjust tactics and formations based on the terrain, weather conditions, and enemy movements. The Seljuks were masters of the feigned retreat, luring enemy forces into a false sense of security before launching a devastating counterattack. They also employed psychological warfare tactics, such as the use of war drums, banners, and battle cries, to instill fear and confusion in their opponents. The history of the Seljuk Empire is punctuated by numerous battles and conquests that shaped the course of regional history. One of the most significant battles in Seljuk history was the Battle of Manzikert in 1071, where Alp Arslan decisively defeated the Byzantine Empire, paving the way for Seljuk expansion into Anatolia. The capture of Baghdad in 1055 was another pivotal moment, solidifying Seljuk control over the Abbasid Caliphate and establishing the Seljuks as the preeminent power in the Islamic world. Throughout their history, the Seljuks waged successful military campaigns against rival powers such as the Fatimids, the Ghaznavids, and the Crusader states. The conquest of Jerusalem in 1099 by Seljuk forces under the leadership of Malik Shah marked a high point of Seljuk military achievement, demonstrating their ability to project power beyond the confines of their empire. In addition to conquests on the battlefield, the Seljuks also employed diplomatic and economic strategies to expand their influence and secure their borders. They forged alliances with neighboring powers, negotiated treaties, and engaged in trade diplomacy to strengthen their position and extend their reach across the Islamic world. The Seljuk Empire fostered a vibrant cultural and artistic milieu, characterized by a synthesis of Turkic, Persian, and Islamic influences. The patronage of arts and architecture flourished under Seljuk rule, as sultans and elite patrons commissioned the construction of magnificent mosques, palaces, and public works projects that adorned the urban landscapes of their empire. Seljuk architecture is renowned for its distinctive blend of Islamic geometric motifs, Persian decorative elements, and Turkic architectural forms. The Great Mosque of Isfahan, constructed during the reign of Malik Shah, stands as a masterpiece of Seljuk architecture, featuring intricate tilework, soaring minarets, and elaborately carved mihrabs. Other notable examples of Seljuk architecture include the Aladdin Mosque in Konya, the Masjid-i Jami in Isfahan, and the Sultanhani Caravanserai along the Silk Road. In addition to mosques and palaces, the Seljuks also patronized the construction of madrasas, Islamic schools, libraries, and public baths, which served as centers of learning, community gathering, and spiritual contemplation. These architectural marvels not only reflected the grandeur and sophistication of Seljuk civilization but also facilitated the exchange of ideas, knowledge, and cultural expression across diverse communities and ethnicities. The Seljuk Empire was a bastion of intellectual inquiry and scholarly pursuit, attracting scholars, poets, and theologians from across the Islamic world. Seljuk rulers and elite patrons endowed madrasas, libraries, and centers of learning, which became hubs of intellectual activity and scholarly discourse. Scholarship flourished under Seljuk patronage, as scholars such as Omar Khayyam, Ibn Sina, Avicenna, and Al-Ghazali made significant contributions to mathematics, medicine, philosophy, and theology. Omar Khayyam's treatises on algebra and astronomy, Ibn Sina's canon of medicine, and Al-Ghazali's works on Islamic theology and mysticism exemplify the breadth and depth of Seljuk intellectual achievement. Madrasas played a central role in Seljuk education, providing students with instruction in Islamic law, theology, Arabic grammar, and the sciences. Scholars and students gathered in madrasas to study classical texts, engage in debates, and participate in intellectual exchanges that enriched the intellectual landscape of the Seljuk Empire. The Seljuk Empire was characterized by religious pluralism and tolerance, as Muslims, Christians, Jews, and other religious communities coexisted within the diverse tapestry of Seljuk society. While Islam served as the dominant religion of the state, the Seljuks adopted a policy of religious pluralism that granted freedom of worship and protected the rights of religious minorities. Mosques, synagogues, churches, and other places of worship flourished under Seljuk rule, reflecting the diverse religious traditions and cultural practices of the empire's inhabitants. The Seljuks respected the religious rights and customs of non-Muslim communities, allowing them to practice their faiths freely and participate in communal life without fear of persecution or discrimination. Interfaith dialogue and cooperation were encouraged within Seljuk society, as scholars and theologians from different religious traditions engaged in debates, discussions, and intellectual exchanges that fostered mutual understanding and respect. The Seljuks also facilitated the translation of classical texts from Greek, Persian, and Sanskrit into Arabic, thereby promoting the dissemination of knowledge and ideas across linguistic and cultural boundaries. The Seljuk Empire was a pivotal player in the complex web of diplomatic relations and commercial exchanges that characterized the medieval Islamic world. Through diplomacy and trade, the Seljuks forged alliances, negotiated treaties, and facilitated the flow of goods, ideas, and cultural exchange across regional boundaries. Diplomacy played a central role in Seljuk foreign policy, as sultans and statesmen engaged in negotiations and diplomatic overtures with neighboring powers, including the Byzantine Empire, the Abbasid Caliphate, and various Turkic dynasties. Marriage alliances, tribute payments, and military alliances were common tools of Seljuk diplomacy, which aimed to secure the empire's borders, maintain regional stability, and expand its sphere of influence. Trade flourished under Seljuk rule, as the empire's strategic location at the crossroads of trade routes connecting Europe, Asia, and Africa facilitated the exchange of goods, commodities, and cultural artifacts. Seljuk cities such as Baghdad, Isfahan, and Aleppo emerged as vibrant commercial hubs, where merchants, traders, and artisans converged to engage in commerce and exchange. The Silk Road, in particular, played a crucial role in facilitating trade between East and West, as caravans laden with silk, spices, precious metals, and exotic goods traversed Seljuk territories en route to distant markets. The Seljuks levied taxes on trade caravans and regulated commercial activities within their domains, which contributed to the empire's economic prosperity and fiscal stability. The Seljuk Empire was characterized by a spirit of religious pluralism and tolerance, as Muslims, Christians, Jews, and other religious communities coexisted within the diverse tapestry of Seljuk society. While Islam served as the dominant religion of the state, the Seljuks adopted a policy of religious tolerance that granted freedom of worship and protected the rights of religious minorities. Interfaith relations flourished under Seljuk rule, as religious scholars, theologians, and mystics from different traditions engaged in dialogue, debate, and intellectual exchange. The Seljuks facilitated the translation of classical texts from Greek, Persian, and Sanskrit into Arabic, which promoted the dissemination of knowledge and ideas across linguistic and cultural boundaries. Jews, Christians, and other non-Muslim communities enjoyed relative autonomy and religious freedom within Seljuk territories, as evidenced by the construction of synagogues, churches, and other places of worship. Religious minorities were allowed to practice their faiths openly, participate in communal life, and contribute to the cultural and intellectual vibrancy of Seljuk society. The Seljuk Empire exerted a profound influence on the Byzantine Empire and the Crusader states, shaping the course of medieval history in the eastern Mediterranean and Anatolia. Seljuk expansion into Anatolia, in particular, brought the empire into direct conflict with Byzantine territories, leading to a series of military confrontations and territorial disputes. The Battle of Manzikert in 1071, where the Seljuks defeated the Byzantine Empire, marked a turning point in the history of the eastern Mediterranean, paving the way for Seljuk expansion into Anatolia and the decline of Byzantine influence in the region. Seljuk conquests in Anatolia laid the groundwork for the emergence of the Sultanate of Rum, which would become a dominant power in the region for centuries to come. The Seljuks also played a significant role in shaping the course of the Crusades, as European Christian powers launched a series of military campaigns to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control. Seljuk forces clashed with Crusader armies in battles such as the Siege of Antioch and the Battle of Hattin, where Saladin's victory dealt a decisive blow to the Crusader states and solidified Seljuk dominance in the Levant. The decline of the Seljuk Empire was precipitated by a myriad of internal challenges that undermined the stability and cohesion of the state. Factionalism, court intrigues, and succession disputes plagued the Seljuk court, leading to political instability and paralysis at the highest levels of government. Rivalry among Seljuk princes and regional governors weakened central authority and sapped the empire's ability to respond effectively to external threats. Corruption and mismanagement further exacerbated internal tensions within the Seljuk Empire, as officials and bureaucrats engaged in graft, nepotism, and embezzlement, undermining public trust and eroding the legitimacy of the state. The decline of the administrative apparatus, coupled with fiscal mismanagement and economic stagnation, contributed to social unrest and discontent among the populace. The Seljuk Empire faced mounting external pressures from rival powers, nomadic incursions, and crusader invasions that strained its military and diplomatic resources. The emergence of new Turkic dynasties such as the Khwarezmians and the Ayyubids posed a direct threat to Seljuk hegemony in the Middle East, challenging the empire's territorial integrity and strategic interests. The Crusades, launched by European Christian powers in the 11th and 12th centuries, posed a formidable challenge to Seljuk authority in the Levant, culminating in the loss of key territories such as Jerusalem, Antioch, and Edessa. Seljuk forces clashed with Crusader armies in epic battles such as the Battle of Hattin, where Saladin's victory dealt a decisive blow to the Crusader states and solidified Seljuk dominance in the region. Nomadic incursions from the steppes of Central Asia further destabilized the Seljuk Empire, as Turkic tribes such as the Mongols and the Khwarezmians launched devastating invasions that swept across the heartlands of the Islamic world. The Mongol conquests, in particular, proved catastrophic for the Seljuks, leading to the sack of Baghdad in 1258 and the collapse of the Abbasid Caliphate. The fragmentation and dissolution of the Seljuk Empire were the inevitable consequences of internal strife, external pressures, and structural weaknesses that had plagued the empire for decades. The death of Sultan Malik Shah in 1092 marked the beginning of a protracted period of decline and disintegration, as rival factions and regional governors vied for power and control over the remnants of the empire. By the mid-13th century, the Seljuk Empire had fragmented into a patchwork of successor states, each vying for control over its diminishing territories. The Sultanate of Rum in Anatolia, the Khwarezmian Empire in Persia, and the Ayyubid Sultanate in Egypt emerged as the principal inheritors of Seljuk power, each carving out their own spheres of influence in the aftermath of the empire's collapse. The Mongol conquests dealt the final blow to Seljuk power and prestige, as the Ilkhanate and the Golden Horde swept across the Middle East, laying waste to cities, plundering treasures, and decimating populations. The fall of Baghdad in 1258 marked the end of the Abbasid Caliphate and the final chapter in the history of the Seljuk Empire, which had once stood as a beacon of Islamic civilization and power in the medieval world. The Seljuk Empire's architectural legacy remains one of its most enduring contributions to world civilization. The Seljuks were prolific builders, constructing magnificent mosques, palaces, caravanserais, and other architectural marvels that continue to captivate and inspire visitors to this day. The distinctive Seljuk architectural style, characterized by intricate tilework, soaring minarets, and elaborately carved stonework, reflects a synthesis of Turkic, Persian, and Islamic influences. Some of the most iconic examples of Seljuk architecture include the Great Mosque of Isfahan, the Aladdin Mosque in Konya, the Sultan Han Caravanserai in Anatolia, and the Tomb of Rum in modern-day Turkey. These architectural masterpieces not only showcase the technical skill and artistic ingenuity of the Seljuk craftsmen but also serve as enduring symbols of Seljuk power, prestige, and cultural sophistication. The Seljuk Empire fostered a vibrant cultural and artistic milieu that enriched the tapestry of Islamic civilization and left an indelible mark on the cultural landscape of the Middle East and Anatolia. Seljuk patronage of the arts and literature flourished under the auspices of enlightened rulers such as Malik Shah and Alp Arslan, who supported poets, scholars, and artists at their courts. Seljuk literature, particularly poetry, thrived during this period, with luminaries such as Omar Khayyam, Rumi, and Attar producing enduring works of literary genius that continue to resonate with readers around the world. Seljuk poets explored themes of love, mysticism, and existentialism, infusing their verses with rich imagery, metaphor, and spiritual insight. In addition to literature, Seljuk artists excelled in various fields of artistic expression, including calligraphy, miniature painting, ceramics, and metalwork. Seljuk artisans adorned mosques, palaces, and manuscripts with exquisite designs and motifs, showcasing their mastery of color, form, and composition. The Seljuk Empire's political and military influence reverberated across the medieval Islamic world, shaping the course of regional history and influencing subsequent dynasties and empires. The Seljuks established a centralized state apparatus that governed vast territories spanning from Central Asia to Anatolia, laying the foundations for administrative, legal, and bureaucratic institutions that endured for centuries. Seljuk military tactics and strategies influenced the development of medieval warfare, as Seljuk commanders pioneered innovative tactics such as the feigned retreat, cavalry charge, and psychological warfare. The Seljuk army, renowned for its discipline, mobility, and martial prowess, served as a model for subsequent Islamic dynasties and military commanders. Moreover, the Seljuk Empire's interactions with neighboring civilizations, including the Byzantine Empire, the Abbasid Caliphate, and the Crusader states, shaped the course of regional politics and diplomacy. Seljuk diplomacy and statecraft, characterized by pragmatism, flexibility, and diplomatic finesse, enabled the empire to navigate the complex web of interethnic and interreligious relations that defined the medieval Islamic world. As we look to the future, there is much that remains to be explored and uncovered in the field of Seljuk studies. The Seljuk Empire represents a fertile ground for interdisciplinary research and scholarly inquiry, encompassing a wide range of topics including political history, military strategy, art history, literature, and religious studies. In conclusion, the study of the Seljuk Empire offers a window into a fascinating and dynamic period of Islamic history, characterized by innovation, creativity, and cultural exchange. By unraveling the mysteries of the Seljuk past and exploring its legacy in the present, we can gain a deeper understanding of the forces that shape the course of world history and continue to shape our world today.